My name is Dennis Williams. I was a correctional officer here at Nevada State Prison from April of 1983 to May of 2011. I was here for 28 years. I wound up retiring here with that 28 years. Back in the 80s, it was a maximum security prison. It was Nevada's only maximum security prison, and it was pretty rough. I've had altercations with inmates. One was, ironically, an officer shot me from 3-post with a 12-gauge shotgun. He was trying to shoot 2 inmates that were running. Back then, you didn't run anywhere, even if you were an officer. I broke my kneecap on the lower yard with an altercation with a Cuban inmate. Then up in 12, we were feeding, and an inmate stabbed me through the food slot. The weapon was made of a sharpened TV antenna and 3 rolled magazines they were rolled tight. They had like strips of sheet to keep them tight. And it was waist level, and the inmate had thrusted it through the food slot. Wow, I'm trying to bring back old memories of all the things that happened. Oh, I was kicked in the head. That was by the individual that I told you about that pulled his eye out. He had steel-toed boots. He got loose from a 4-point. 6 officers were trying to bring him down. He still was able to give us a fight, and he wound up basically ringing my bell with his boot in the head. I saw an inmate get beat to the point where up in Unit 8, rang the buzzer. I got up out of my seat, and I'm looking at him, and he says, "Let me out." And I asked him, I says, "Who are you?" I could not tell who he was. He had gotten beat so badly. His head had swollen. His face was swollen so much that I could not tell who he was. We had an inmate that came off the upper yard. He had been cut from here to here. We figured the only thing that kept him alive was him dipping his head and him holding like this to keep the blood flow. I couldn't tell you what the average was, like once a month, every 6 months. All I can tell you is that the beatings were quite a bit. Anything from fists, multiple people, broom handles. That's what Ron Gress was. You'll see in the picture of Ron Gress. On this side here, you see that long bruise, and that was a broom handle that was put to him. Well, I started in April of 83. Around July of 83, I was transferred up into his unit, which was the old number 3. The first time I saw him, I was passing out the mail. Being only 20 years old when I hired, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I tell people that looking at him, it was the equivalent of your anatomy class, and then there's a skull, and all they've done is put a layer of skin with 2 marbles in it. Whatever had happened to him had taken its toll, and then when he had grabbed for his mail, he had, if I remember right, he had 3 fingers on one hand and 2 on another. Talking was at a minimal, like when I gave him his mail. I'd call him up for his mail, and all he would ever do was just say thank you. He was always cordial, always pleasant. His mail consisted of construction or heavy equipment magazines. But other than that, I mean, he was a nice guy, and I had told you before that if I had it my way, I'd rather have a unit of Ron Gresses than the other people that I had in my unit, because he was so easy to deal with. He was a loner. I had observed him in the culinary, and the way it worked, an assigned seat. He was so hard to look at that he would sit by himself, and no one enforced it. So instead of Ron coming and sitting with the other inmates, because the other inmates didn't want him sitting at their table, he would go over there where there were other tables and he'd sit by himself. He never went to the yard. He never went to activities. He didn't go to education.
And what do you think about his crimes?
I think he lost it out there. He was wrong, of course. He was a killer. But I think he had lost it out there. Loneliness and that kind of a thing will take its toll on you. Now, to compare who he was out there and who he was in here, I was basically shocked when you had told me the whole story. To me, there were two different people. I had Ron in my unit for a year and a half. And then he got transferred to the unit across the gauntlet. I believe that was Joe Kinsley's unit. So I'm really not privy to knowing that. My impression of the man was that he was extremely intelligent, and looking at his mail, it really did give me the impression that Ron was expecting someday to get out and resume his life.